We need to think of ourselves as like the Roman Empire had districts and economic districts of the south, the east, the west, the north. So we must organise ourselves to face the threat of China, to face the threat and the need to invade, the absolute need to invade Saudi Arabia and get rid of the Saudi and Bin Laden crime families once and for all, and also Yemen. But to do this would be probably better to do it through the route of what is happening now in the Middle East. I've revised my views on this because the democratic revolutions within the Middle East is probably going to make the Middle East part of the Western world and North Africa part of the Western world. It may take some time, but perhaps even secularism or even Christianity may take root in the Middle East, or the Protestant work ethic anyway, and scientific inquiry. Now, I'm not a Christian myself, I'm agnostic, but as Noel Ferguson said, who is an atheist, as he said he was brought up as an atheist. It is necessary for Western culture to expand, and the EU is doing this, and the United States is backing it up, which is a positive step. But the United States has not took the lead. The United States and Europe and the United States and England are starting to organise themselves in a dynamic fashion. The Federal Reserve has also failed as an institution with its strategy of tension against Europe to break Europe. The markets have failed to break Europe because every time a financial crisis has happened, Europe has emerged stronger. Europe is already going to create 2 million research jobs, research and development jobs. So we are a strong economy. And the Americans, the American government at least, and American ambassadors have spoken about the need for a strong leadership within Europe. Probably Germany would be the country, but that they're thinking of. But I would say we need to help Germany get past its insecurity of being surrounded by foreign countries, because it's been invaded 157 times, like it's invaded its neighbours 32 times, as I said in my Anglo-German relations video, by helping Germany become a maritime power within the structure of the EU. We need a strong France, a strong Germany, and a strong England, as Winston Churchill said. We also need to have, within the United States and Europe, economies that are more in kilter with each other. At the moment, the United States is having structural deficits to China and Saudi Arabia that might go on to the end of time. As I mentioned again, Niall Ferguson said this. Yeah, he's talking about fiscal reform, which will mean cuts, which will mean deflationary pressure, while Paul Krugman, as I said in my video, is talking about massive public works and renationalising the banks. Now, can you run a bank as a public service? This is a question. The banks should have ethical standards, and both those economists, Niall Ferguson and Paul Krugman, a social democrat, who I should be agreeing with more because I am a social democrat, are agreeing on the point of good ethical standards within banking. Now, that also within Britain, David Cameron and also the Labour leader and Liberal leader, that's Nick Clegg and Ed Miliband, respectively, have said that there must be a firewall between retail banks and investment banks. This is very important, right? And this legislation is happening. Should this legislation happen in the United States? Definitely it should. There should be regulation of the banking system in the United States. The United States is already a mixed economy. How much of it being a capitalist economy or a social democratic economy is debatable. But people have said, Ron Paul has said, that they must make the jump to a capitalist economy. I would say you have to make a jump into a free market economy, because the free market economy should be more equal and should develop a property owning democracy, as Niall Ferguson said, with everybody has a house, a lawn, and a garage. But because of human nature, you will never reach a free market, just like you will never reach communism because of human nature. But I believe you should take the jump to a social democracy, probably for Europe and America and Canada and England and Ireland and Scotland and Wales, on the Swedish social model, or the Danish social model, or the German social democratic model, but where people who are losing their jobs, will be reinvested in by society, by the economy, to produce more better jobs for them. If you lose your job, you will be trained up to a better job. This would also should be encourage people to put away savings and pensions, by having more children, and the link between savings and pensions being put in place. I also believe that there should be more cooperatives, and the cooperative movement should be encouraged in the United States and the EU and England and Canada and also Australia. We are talking about the West as a whole, not just the Atlantic. I believe that you could have a Western mark, a Western currency for the entire Western world. At the moment, we're talking about a global currency, which will be a basket of currencies of different types, which will include the renminbi, the dollar, the euro, the pound, the Russian currency, the ruble, the Indian rupee, and several other countries, including Saudi Arabia, will have their currency in this thing. This to me is too far down the route of corporate globalisation. I'm for a middle road between globalisation and extreme nationalism. Some people in the United States want to basically invade the planet, and some people in Europe, probably on the far right, probably want to do the same thing. But luckily those people aren't the ones in charge of the nuclear weapons, whereas the ones in the United States do have access to weapons, they do have access to money. There are also dangerous links between the United States government, the United States establishment, not the United States government, but between them and the Israeli lobby, and the extreme of the Israeli lobby and the extreme of the Saudi lobby. This is something that is a dangerous development in United States history, and it has to be weeded out. How do we weed it out? Do we fight these people in the streets? No. We include a democratic revolution. We cause a democratic revolution in Saudi Arabia, and we make Israel more moderate and bring it into the Western world. We bring the Middle East into the Western world. We don't make a Eurabia. We make a democratic, stable Arab countries and a stable Israel, with Palestine in a two-state solution, which will not encourage those people to want to move from those countries, because their standard of living will be equal to the West. Our problem here with immigration is because of unstable rogue regimes and gangsters basically running countries, feudalist crime families, or in the case of Syria, Ba'athist totalitarian parties, or Iran, Ba'athist totalitarian Islamic republics. These things have to change. You have to bring Iran and Russia in from the cold, and that can be done by the Europeans because they have more credibility than the United States, who have waved a big stick. But as Niall Ferguson said, people have rightly should fear the President of the United States. Because the President of the United States, because he's expected to wield a big stick, can also do things as John McCain may have been able to do if he had been elected, and I would have supported his election, although he is a Conservative and I'm a Social Democrat, in the United States, because he would have been able to go to Iran and say, unlike anyone else, after singing Bomb Bomb Iran to Barbara Ann, to say, actually, we will give you a peace deal with the Europeans as in between negotiators. And he would have had credibility.